Hi guys. Well, I had a couple of requests for some Choux Dough, and that's C-H-O-U-X. Pâte à choux. This is the stuff that you make cream puffs from. Very easy, but you have to follow these directions. Sometimes it doesn't work, so just giving you a heads up there. But if you show the directions, you're more than likely going to get it. Next thing is, please remember to weigh or measure the ingredients properly. One of the things I like to do is just to take maybe a piece of paper and print off or write down my ingredients and have that whole list there, and then go through, make sure you have everything. And before you start putting stuff together, weigh out everything, measure everything, lay it out, double check so that you don't miss anything. The other thing I like to do is to make sure I have all my tools. So over here I've got a wooden spoon, got a little spatula, got some measuring cups, measuring spoons, scales. I always like to use the scales, more exact and stuff, especially when you come down to pastry. If you don't have it, use these, but if at some stage maybe getting yourself a scales would be kind of a neat idea. Don't have to get one as fancy as this, and they're available pretty cheap, okay? The other thing we're going to need is a good pot, something that has a reasonably heavy base on it. It's going to make this a lot easier. And a piping bag, now with a large nozzle. If you don't have a piping bag, don't worry, you can still do these, and you can just use a couple of spoons, and I'll show you how to do that. So that being it, let me go through the ingredients we have here. So, got my piece of paper so I can double check everything. I have my butter, half a pound of butter, or sorry, half a cup of butter. See, already made a mistake. Half a cup of butter cut into small pieces. I have half a cup of water, half a cup of milk. Now, if you don't have milk, you can just double up on the water, so it's no problem there. Let's see, we need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I have some salt here, and I'm just going to take my little measuring spoon here, and I can put it right into the water. 2 teaspoons of granulated sugar. Got some granulated sugar here, and I'll get my teaspoon measure. Make sure I have the right one. Make sure. 2 sugars. I can put that right into the water as well. And you can see it's not much sugar going into this. Going down, I have 1 cup of all-purpose flour. Have it here. Got it sifted. Make sure there's no lumps or anything into it. 4 large eggs. And I am going to beat those up, just kind of break them up. Don't have to beat them too much, but just kind of give them a little bit of a breakup, okay? And we'll put that there. And that's all the ingredients. Okay, so I've got my pot here, and I got my wooden spoon. Next thing I'm doing, I'm going to take my water, and I had added the sugar, etc., in here, and the salt. And I want to make kind of sure that I get all of that. Okay. I'm going to add my milk. It'll help kind of rinse that out. This is an induction stove, and we'll just bring this up to temperature here. We're going to take our butter, add our butter in on top of our water and milk mixture. And we are going to let this come up to a simmer. What we want to do is really just melt all the butter, okay? Having a good heavy bottom pot is going to be really good for this, because we also want to keep a little bit of heat in the pot when it comes to adding our flour. And we have our flour right here. And it looks like almost there now. So now I have my flour. I can start to see that that's just simmering a little. And my next thing to do is just to add the flour gently in here. And at this stage, I can turn off the heat. There's enough heat left in this pot to do the next stage. And as you see, I'm just going to stir this wooden spoon. Notice how I'm using the wooden spoon. I'm not doing this type of thing, okay? I'm going to hold it almost like a pencil. That way I have more control, and it's just easier. Okay. So keep working that. You want to get all the lumps out of it and get all that flour incorporated in there. And you'll start to see it coming together and coming away from the sides of the pot. And just making sure. And I had turned the heat off on this, so there's no heat on this at the moment, just the heat that's left in the pot itself. Okay, so now we're going to let that sit just for a few minutes. We want to let it cool off. We don't want to let it go cold or anything, but we just want to get it cooled off a little bit so we can do the next section, okay? All right, so we're now ready for the next part. So you'll see that this mixture has kind of come together. It's kind of clean inside of the pot. It's sticking together. And the next now is to add our eggs. We've kind of let it cool off a little bit. We're not going to add all of the egg in. That's very important. Add maybe 3/4, so it's about 3 eggs, right? And then using your wooden spoon, start blending that in. At the beginning, you'll see that it kind of just doesn't seem to want to blend in, but don't give up on it. Just keep working it, and you're going to see this starting to come together here in a second. Start to see it there. Now, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, you know, it's a little bit heavy, okay? It doesn't want to come off the spoon nicely. So I'm going to add a little bit more of the egg in. And I'm going to add like half it again, okay? I'm going to mix that in. Second batch goes in a lot easier. Make sure that you give it a good mixing, okay? Now, let's see. Getting a bit better. I'm going to add in the rest of it. Choux dough is a little funny. Sometimes you'll need all 4 eggs. Sometimes you might only need 3.5 eggs, and even sometimes you might need 4.5 eggs. So that's why we do a little bit at a time, just to get that right consistency. We want it just to kind of start to drop off the spoon. So make sure we give it a good mixing again. If your hand gets a little tired doing it, just keep going through it, because don't give up on this, okay? It's a very important part. Okay, now, see that? Starting to drip. Okay, so now it is time to get it onto a cookie tray. I've already, by the way, heated up my oven at 400 degrees, and I'll put all this in at the end of the video so you have all the ingredients and temperature of the oven, etc. I have the bag here. I'm going to just turn down the edges of it here a little bit. I have a spatula, just makes it a little easier, but if you don't have one, you got the wooden spoon, no problem. And you'll see that I'll pick it up into the bag, and I just use my thumb to scrape it off. Don't overfill your bag. That's a lot of times people make that mistake. And then I'll get it to drop down into the center of the bag. I'll push it down. I'll give it a twist. And the key to using a piping bag is not to like squeeze like with this hand. You got to squeeze with one hand, and that will be, in my case, my right hand. If you're left-handed, it would be your left hand, and then you can use the other hand just to kind of guide it. Okay. Now, if you don't have a piping bag, what are you going to do? Well, all you need is 2 spoons. Take a good, nice blob. This used to be, or not used to, it is called quenelle, okay, making quenelles. And then we can take our tray here, and we can just drop it right down onto our cookie sheet. This is a piece of parchment paper. If you don't have that, you could put a little grease on the bottom of the, maybe butter or oil or something, just a light, very fine coating onto your tray, or if you have a non-stick tray, even better, okay? So you could do it that way. So, piping bag. Oops. Give it a little twist. I'm sure there's some people out there who are pastry chefs and stuff, and they're looking and going, oh no. Well, this works for me. So now we've got a couple of cream puffs. This goes straight into the oven, okay? Don't leave it sitting around or anything. I have the oven preset, 400 degrees. We have a convection oven, so I have the fan running. And I'll go ahead now and just stick that right into our oven. I've got the Choux Dough in the oven, and I'm just going to go and check it and see how it is. And they look pretty good. So what I want to do is take these off of, they're still hot there, the tray, because we want them to cool off. Now, when you're baking these off, it's 400 degree oven. And take, 10, 15 minutes, depending on your oven. But what you want to be looking for is to make sure that you have a good color all the way around. If you take these out too early and this part here is still a bit white, they're just going to collapse on you. So give them a little time. If you're not sure, hey, just put on another couple of minutes, okay? But get it nice and brown there. Now, we're going to let these kind of cool off a little bit. And then we're going to take some heavy cream. And over here in the mixer, I'm just finishing it up. So I've got my heavy cream here. Now what I like to do is to add some powdered sugar into the cream. You don't have to, just a regular bit of sugar you can. Powdered sugar will kind of help it be a little bit more stable and kind of last a little longer. But it's roughly, let me just think for, it's about 4 ounces to the pint, okay, or 3 ounces or so of powdered sugar. If you don't have even that much, even if you put 1 or 2 ounces, it'll help too. And of course, if you don't want to use any sugar at all, that's okay too, so it's up to you. So we have that there. I have a piping bag ready. And then we want to take a knife. So we're going to take this knife, and we're just going to open these up a little bit, okay? So just very gently. Be careful because they're still hot. You're going to have some steam in there, okay? And we kind of just open that up. Now, another thing you could do at the end, you could dip them in chocolate. We're going to just maybe put a little bit of powdered sugar on it today. And these should feel light. There we go. Another thing about these, they're very versatile. You don't have to put cream into them. You could put chocolate pudding in if you wanted to. You could leave out the sugar at the beginning, and you could put a savory filling in here. fact, when I was training as a chef many years ago, that was quite a trendy thing, was to use choux dough and fill it with savory items and stuff. We would make these little small ones, little profiteroles, and then we put fillings in them and use them on buffets and stuff, and people could take them, maybe a little bit of smoked salmon or pate, anything along those, some savory, and it went down really well. Just don't put the sugar in the mix, okay? So we're going to let that cool off there, and then we'll get our piping bag. And just as before, I want to turn down your bag a little bit. I have my spatula. The cream should be whipped up pretty thick, okay? One thing about whipping cream is don't walk away from it if you're using a machine, because that's usually when it gets over whipped. So just stay with it. It only takes a couple of minutes, okay? So I'm just going to push it down, get rid of the air pockets, got my bag ready, and then we want to get a plate or something to put these onto, because remember, and as I said in other ones, we eat with our eyes first, so you got to make sure that they look good. If they look good, people are going to go, wow, I want to have some of that, okay? So let me, okay, well, they're cooled off enough. Got my cream, and let's go and fill a few, okay? So, nice. You don't want to put too much cream in them, okay? Because someone's got to eat them. If you get too much cream, it's going to go all over the place. I know we all like the cream, but hold back a little bit on it. So we just fill a few here. If you don't have a piping bag, you could just use a spoon. Just spoon it in. And next thing, some powdered sugar over the top. Said you could put some chocolate over there, but they're quite rich as it is, so a nice sprinkle. Now, I have a plate here, and I'm going to go ahead and put them onto the little plate. Just a little bit more. Okay. Now, oh, good one. I guess that's my one. So I think what I might do is nip out in the garden and grab, I think we have some mint out there maybe, and maybe put a piece of mint on there, kind of brighten it up, because at the moment we just have two colors. So I'll be back in a second. Right. All right, good. What? Oh. Oh, well, okay. I guess somebody got here. Anyway, that's another video from North Bend High School Culinary Arts. I'm Chef Frank Murphy. Look out for the recipe, and I'll figure out who took these. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.